What's up, everybody? It's Dustin, Berserker Bear, with another edition of Bushwhacking Tartaria. Today I got a pretty good one for you. I apologize about the wait, but I had to put this one together because it was pretty extensive. It's St. Anne's Church, Parish, in the east side of Buffalo on Broadway. This is what we're looking at right here. Very big place. We're going to go through a history. I'll get right into what we're going to do here. I have articles we're going to go through. I have old vintage pictures that we're going to go through. Construction possible pictures. We'll debate that. Okay, I have the church itself was built in Gothic style. I have in one of my old books specific examples for old world European Gothic style for reference. For example, keep an eye on this one right here. Looks kind of familiar. Notice the different sizes of these steeples. That is F. Real quick, we're gonna look through all this, but real quick, F is the Chatris Cathedral Facade. Okay, we're gonna go through this stuff. I have literature to go through. Literature with conflicting dates. Literature that references the Diocese of Buffalo going back to the Vatican about what they're going to do with this place and possibly demolish it. I have old photos about, we have steeple action going on here. We have Johnson and Son pipe organ stuff going on here. And we also have 7-foot thick walls, reinforced steel, Lockport dolomite. And with that, I'm going to read you an article from the actual stannbuffalo.org website, a detailed history of it that kind of has a little conflicting narrative here, where we're talking about 7 feet thick walls, and I'm citing things in the actual website of the St. Anne Church that they were looking to cut expenses. We're going to go through that. We're going to do a little bit of a virtual tour of inside the place. I found this cool tool. This is actually inside. And we're going to correlate something like this, and I'll show you what we can do here. Kind of pictures that we have. Vintage. Check this out. We'll look at that old vintage picture, and we'll go to the virtual tour. We're going to get into that. I have this old tool, or this tool that I found that shows old land plots in Buffalo, details every single one. And one thing that jumps out to me, I don't know how to read these things as far as the numbers go, but this plot is actually 0. Okay, you got St. Anne there. It breaks down all the property rights effectively, I'd say, for zoning laws and everything. We also have old maps. We're going to correlate where we are on these old maps. I'm going to find a location actually of where the St. Anne Church is here on the map, on this map, on this map, on this map. Got some pretty serious gravy right there. A lot going on today. We're also going to jump out to the Pew for a little bit because of a feature I see that in the article, and we're going to go through these guys, and they're just going to show you how these guys look similar to these guys, look similar to these guys, and their symbolism. And that's where we're going to go. So that's the Bushwhacking Tartaria St. Anne's Church here with Berserker Bear. Let's get right into it. Go back to our land plots, and we are at the St. Anne's Church, Buffalo, New York. It's the second oldest church in Buffalo, second or third, next to, I believe, St. Louis Church, which I've done before, and the St. Michael's Church, and that's going to be in the literature. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get you the on-the-scene pictures and video, and as that's playing, there's a real long video that I have, 10 minutes, where I actually circle around this place, kind of similar to what you can see here, but I'm actually on the ground going around it. And I'll read the article while I'm walking around and while I get you the pictures. So let's actually get right into it right now. Please like, share, subscribe, and yeah, let's go. This is St. Anne's Church, Bushwhacking Tartaria, another edition with Dustin from Buffalo, and let's do it. Here we go. So, this is me right up on top of it, like you say, on the scene here. And I have an article I'm going to read. There it is right there. Now, this article is actually, look how big that is, guys. I'll read the article, try to kill two birds with one stone. This is actually not that long of a video, but we'll go through it. I'm actually reading the article. It says the detailed history, St. Anne's Church and Shrine, Buffalo, New York, on the stannbuffalo.org website. That's a very interesting feature. I didn't find any gravy on that other than the fact that it's in some pictures. And also we have old cityscape pictures of Buffalo too. So here we go. I'm just going to cycle through and read off the history. So, detailed history, St. Anne's Church and Shrine, Buffalo, New York. History of the St. Anne's Church and Shrine. Martin Ederer, updated December 31st, 2011. Excuse me. Skull Viking Mock from Berserker Bear. Look at the red brick right there. We're going to go over all this. I have pictures. I have the history of, or at least what they tell us when this was built, and we're going to go over that. So let's listen. The history of St. Anne's Church and Shrine began with a conversation between Mr. Stephen Van Rensselaer Watson and Bishop John Timon as they rode together out Batavia Street, now Broadway, from Buffalo in 1857. By 1857, Timon had been Bishop of Buffalo for 10 years, since Pope Pius IX had created the Diocese of Buffalo in 1847. Despite the fact that the United States had already expanded as far as California, Buffalo, as far as the East Coast interests were concerned, was still very much a howling frontier. But the city was growing by leaps and bounds thanks to competition for the Erie Canal in 1825, which made Buffalo a major Great Lakes port, for sure. Buffalo's prosperity attracted people from New England, came Protestant settlers from the German-speaking monarchies, immigrants, European and Protestant immigrants, excuse me. In 1848, the Irish potato famine brought large influx of Irish Catholic immigrants to Buffalo. A small African-American community, some of the Buffalo's oldest families amongst their number, had also formed. Oldest community, African-American. That's interesting because we're going over that history now with doing some other research about the history of America that kind of relates. Look at now this is what they would say was the old school. But look at what we have here. Okay? Looks like old foundation, but I don't see any reference to that in the text when I'm going over it. We'll get back. I'll finish reading that. Let's get to the that video where we're going around it. So, yeah, this is where we are here. Remember, we were just talking. We were at the African American spot. Okay. Now, for reference on here, I'll show you where I am on the actual map. That's, of course, this building, which is also cool in its own merit because it's a red brick and it's got an interesting foundation, different. So I go around that also. So that's where we are. I'm pretty much tucked in the cut right here when you see me. when I'm with these pictures. Here's the long one. So, African American community, some of the Buffalo's oldest families amongst their number, had also formed. By the 1850s, a large German neighborhood had grown on the lands east of Buffalo into a whole new section of the city that would come to be known as the East Side. By this time, Buffalo's first Roman Catholic parish, St. Louis, I did that in a former video of Bushwhacking Tartaria. St. Louis is a very cool looking building as well. Has all the little nodules on it. Okay. St. Louis had become a solidly German parish, and numerous other German parishes had sprung up. This kind of tends to be the issue. The same thing happened in the history of the St. Louis parish, as it's showing you right now, as well as the one that I just did previously, the Blessed Mary. It always talks about how the parish starts first, and you either have these red brick buildings initially, and it gets bigger, the population grows, and they have a need for a bigger church. That's kind of a need for a bigger or a place where the congregation can meet. Even though that, if you actually think about it, this building looks like it can house more people, and so that's confusing as well. But that's kind of how it's almost like a formula that they use, because I'm saying is that I'm trying to look at it both ways. Like if they were here, these buildings, or if what the story is telling that is true. So I'm trying to look through it both lenses. And when you read through the literature, as I say, I always say the literature or the text or the research, some things don't add up when you put it together with what I'm seeing. And that's what I'm trying to do here for you. You got a little bit of a dip here too. This was interesting. It was like a lowered entrance into the place. That was cool. I think I got video of it for you. So yeah, as the narrative goes, as it's went for this one, as it went for the Blessed Mary that I did, the two towers, my previous episode, as well as St. Louis. The parish starts under the name of the actual St. Louis or the name of St. Anne, and then it grows to a bigger parish, and then they got to make a church. And those churches are these buildings, these massive behemoths, this thing, right? Even though you can actually fit more people, but then they don't distinguish. We're going to get into it in this, but they don't distinguish between these two buildings, actually. So let's continue reading, and let's continue on in the video. Again, we were back here. This was going lower. Interesting feature. What do you guys think? Got a little bit of ways to go here in this, so let's go with as I read aloud. Okay, so as I was saying, the German neighborhood had grown to lands east of Buffalo into a whole new section of the city that will come to be known as the East Side. By this time, Buffalo's first Roman Catholic Church parish, St. Louis, become a solidly German parish, and numerous other German parishes had sprung up. There we go. Redemptorists established St. Mary at Pine and Batavia Streets in 1842. St. Boniface was established on Mulberry Street in 1849. In more distant places that had yet to become part of Buffalo, German Catholics established St. Francis Xavier in Black Rock, that's near where I live, and St. Joseph's, Ellisville, Main Street near University at Buffalo, from 1847 to 1850. Now, right away, well, at least the way it's written is kind of confusing to try to extrapolate the dates. They go back and forth, and they say they started a date at a certain time, and they don't tell you when they ended it directly in the same sentence or near that sentence. They do it a couple sentences down or at the end of a paragraph. I think it's meant to confuse, because I found myself interreading these articles. Look at that. Look at that. What does that look like, huh? Yeah, interreading these articles, it's confusing. I have notes written. I I kind of wrote a little bit of a narrative here because there was so much going on that I kept on getting into side tangents that I had to try to curtail myself, because this is going to be kind of a long video. I hope you stick around for it because I have all those pictures to go through along with some conflicting dates. I'm going to try to show that these buildings may have been here or not. Take it or leave it, but again, look how cool that is. Okay, so let's get back into it. Yeah, it's, as you read through these articles, first of all, some of the dates don't add up. They don't match up. Second of all, it's hard to extrapolate a timeline, a proper timeline. I guess is a term that I like to use a lot, is the proper timeline. I don't like to use history because I think that word itself is a spell. Campbell and I talked about that, his story, pretty extensively. My man Cam, down under. So anyways, and moving onward, let's go finish this article here, because I'm gonna use this article as it's the main website for the actual church itself to act as a baseline against all the other articles that I'll briefly show the dates and what they talk about with the steeples, the organs, healing of organs, maybe. We're going to use this article to stem off of, effectively, as the foundation, pun intended. So, in 1848, meanwhile, Timon, he's a pivotal, Father Bishop Timon, key figure. He was the Buffalo bishop since 1847. Okay, now, Timon had invited the Jesuits to the diocese. They established themselves in Williamsville at SS Peter and Paul, which had been founded at 1836 by Friar John Nepomuk Newman, who later joined the Redemptorists and subsequently became the first bishop of Philadelphia. It's all over the place, these articles. He was canonized a saint in 1977, so they bring it all the way to 1977, talking about this guy who's a side tangent. So what brought the Jesuits into Buffalo proper was an ongoing struggle between the trustees of the St. Louis Church and the diocese over who would own the church building. So I say the trustees, probably the developers, people that are involved with financing the construction of the actual land plot, developing it. So presume that there's nothing here. They would have leveled it, and I believe that's who the developers are, and I believe that's who the trustees are, because you have the church, the diocese, and then the trustees. Now, since they had, let's get back to video, sorry about that. As you can see, this goes off in a lot of different places. Now, stick with me. Look at that hidden arch. Beautiful. Okay, the trustees insisted that since they had paid for it, they should own it. Okay, that the developers are saying, well, I understand you're the church, but we bought it, we paid for everything, all the equipment, whatever. It's ours. So such an arrangement was not unusual in Alsace. Now, Alsace is, I believe, what they're referring to as Alsace-Lorraine of France, France-Germany area, where they paid for it, they should own it. Effectively, they're hearkening back to how they did it in the old country. Okay, and not unusual in Alsace, where many of St. Louis German-speaking parishioners had come from. But Timon would have none of it. He placed the St. Louis under interdict in 1851, and the diocese invited the Jesuits to establish a rival parish nearby to break St. Louis. Interesting. So they just created a little grabble there, effectively, seemingly. The result of the establishment of the result was the establishment of St. Michael Church. Okay. St. Michael would have been the third church. So you have St. Louis, then you have this church that I'm doing. I did St. Louis before. That would be the first one. St. Anne would be the second church in Buffalo Parish. And then you have St. Michael. I'll do that one as well. I can get into that and research that, But that's a whole nother tangent. It's a whole nother building. Let's just stick to the focus here. You guys have the keywords. If you want to look into it yourself, I'm going to put all these articles in the description for you. Okay? So, look at that. Again, now, yeah, look at, now, I'm sorry that I'm reading the article while I'm going over this, but I hope it'll actually give you insight as to how I think as well. And at the same time, killing two birds with one stone, because you can actually see, and then I'll go through pictures afterwards. I have other close-up pictures. There's interior, exterior pictures. So I want to give you the mindset, of the frame of mind that I'm coming from with this, and I hope that, again, killing two birds with one stone, you're watching the video and hearing the history of it. You can go back and listen to it, or you can look this up yourself, because this is, again, going to form the foundation of, as I sit and poke holes at what I'm seeing. You guys can help me out with your comments also. So, okay, where were we? Now, but Timon would have none of it. He placed St. Louis under interdict in 1851. The diocese invited the Jesuits to establish a rival parish, yada yada, and that created St. Michael. Okay, the crisis at St. Louis passed, even if it did not get fully resolved until 1979. Huge swath of time there. Huge swath of time. But St. Michael's Church and the Jesuits were in Buffalo to stay. 1870, Canisius High School and college grew up in the shadow of St. Michael's Church. So it's saying back then, because Canisius is no longer near where St. Michael's Church is now. Again, they move stuff around. If you look up Canisius High School, it's more closer to like the Scajaquada and I guess Delaware Park area of Buffalo, whereas St. Michael's Church is like downtown. Okay, look at that. I always thought that was cool. Now what's we're gonna, well, I'll go over. I was gonna show you the similarity between that and the layout in the old book that I have. But let's get going on the article. So Canisius High School no longer is near St. Michael, is what I was trying to say. So by the late 1850s, it was obvious that the German Catholic community in Buffalo was continuing to grow unabated, and the German East Side had continued its expansion eastward. More churches, along with everything else, had become necessary, and the creation of St. Anne was a response to those needs. In 1857, Timon asked the Jesuits to establish a second parish on the east side. They had eyed purchasing the land there in hopes of establishing a college. As things turned out, the college never materialized in the location, but St. Anne's Church did, as a second Jesuit mission in Buffalo. So that was the second one. This is the second one. Work began in 1858 on a brick church facing Emslie Street, at about the location where the school stands today. Stick with me here. We'll go over this. Shovel went into ground on March 15th, and the building was ready for use on June 20th. Okay, 1858. Now that's the church, the red brick church. Okay, this is across the street here. This is actually, I got off base, but this building, just so you know where I am, is right here. Looks like terracotta to me. Some of them are old brick though, and I just walk around it because it's trying to get a faraway shot, but I couldn't help it. So here we go. Shovel went in the ground on the red brick. Now we're going to go over which brick that is. I can't really, to be honest with you, discern whether it's this, whether it's this one or this one. Across the street. So here we go. On one of the red brick buildings, it was began in 1858, and it says there was a 3-month period, of course, and 50 feet, 55 feet wide, 56 feet high, 165 feet long. The new building immediately served as a church, school, and rectory. So three purposes for that church, for that building. I presume it was the big red brick building. Okay. It cost $7,000 to build. The cornerstone laying ceremony of that modest church became a major celebration for all Buffalo's churches, Buffalo's Catholics. All the rest of Buffalo's Catholic parishes celebrated, and it goes to list a whole bunch of them. You could look this up. St. Anne's Church was a German parish from its very beginning. Its parishioners spoke German. The priest serving it, St. Anne's Church, spoke German and preached in German. Parish devotions and missions were conducted in German. Parishioners went to confession in German. The strange part about the arrangement was that the German-speaking Jesuits who served both St. Michael and St. Anne were drawn from the New York, Canada mission of French Province of Society of Jesus. So the Society of Jesus is the Jesuits, effectively. It's a different name for them, another name for them. So they bubbled off of the Canadian New York one and set up their own thing. In 1869, the Jesuit operation in Buffalo were separated from the New York, Canada mission and attached to the German province of Jesuits under its own name, the Buffalo Mission of the Province of Germany. That new mission extended from Buffalo to South Dakota and Wyoming, and consequently the Buffalo Jesuit influence, and with that of St. Anne's Church, extended across the country. That remained the administrative situation until Maryland, New York Jesuit province established in 1907. But not all Germans were the same. After Canisius High School opened at St. Michael's Church, which was mainly Alsatian, again Alsace-Lorraine, fights were routine between the Michael's Alsatian students and the St. Anne Bavarians. Okay, here we go. So they were having like disputes between Bavarian Germans and Alsatian Germans. Alsatian like France type of deal, Alsace-Lorraine area. Meanwhile, the parish continued to grow, of course. By the 1870s, the existing church had become overcrowded and the school arrangements were woefully inadequate. The parish considered building a bigger church. Here we go. This is where it gets into the interesting stuff here. They began buying up adjacent lots. Okay, maybe people can help me out here. There's 0, and then I don't know where 2. Does that mean that's 0 in Buffalo? Okay, this is what's confusing to me. Okay, so they began buying up adjacent lots. The parish considered building a bigger church. Francis Hempler of New York developed designs for a massive neo-Gothic stone church to replace the old brick church on Emslie Street. The original design called for 2 identical steeples. The project price was an astronomical $135,000. The pastor panicked and the project was canceled, so he got cold feet. Okay? And it originally called for 2 identical steeples, and those don't look identical to me. But there's a reason for that, and we're going to find out. So he panicked, and the project was canceled. Look at that guy. Okay. Who's that legend? Yeah, what's going on up there? I like this little catwalk up there. Very cool. Okay, so he got cold feet. Instead, the new plans were developed for merely enlarging the existing church. The old red brick building, is that what they were talking about? The one that acted as the rectory and the school? This is where it's confusing again. So St. Anne's Church got a new pastor, William Rother. He revived the plan for a new church, but accompanied his support for the new church with a stern admonition: no money, no church. So he wanted to drum up support, get money for the church to build this thing, effectively. This beautiful behemoth of a structure. So he wouldn't support the new church, and he put up a parish. He wouldn't support the new church project, but not. He would support, the new church project, but not if it meant putting the parish into debt. So, I mean, I can understand that argument for sure. Okay. You don't want to, you know, chop off your nose to spite your face. But I'm not sure if I buy the narrative to begin with. I think that this is just all fluff. So it probably won't add up under scrutiny. So let's look at that. He started finding, okay, he revived the plan to, look at this. He revived the plan to make the new church, and he wanted the money for it. No money, no church. He would support the new church, but not if it meant putting it into debt. If the money ran out, the project would stop. The parish rose to the challenge. They started finding ways to cut expenses. Okay, now this is where it's very interesting, where it says they found ways to cut expenses, but we're going to go over this 7-foot thick, 2-meter thick walls, steel reinforcement. Now, let's just look at, see where we are here. 7 feet thick walls. Keep that in mind. Steel reinforcement. This is the only picture that I could find for a construction photo. And I'm not sure that I entirely buy it. 7 feet. Which walls were 7 feet thick? And what's this stuff going on at the base of it? Does anybody know? Again, you know, UAP nails it by saying when you are going to build a structure, you want to flatten the ground. This looks like it's right in mid-process. And what, do they build the whole building level at one point in time? This is what they all seem to look like, these pictures. Even the City Hall of Buffalo. So 7-foot thick walls. Steel reinforced. I don't see any steel there now. Not that anything's deteriorating enough where steel will come out, but this is what they're saying for a construction photo for a structure that was built with 7-foot thick walls. Okay? And they don't have any more construction photos of that. This is where things get a little bit confusing. Okay? Where am I here? Okay. See, there we go. Look at this. That's what Father's. How beautiful that is. Now, does it look like there were plaques here before? We're going to check that out in these old photos. So, the parish rose to the challenge. They started finding ways to cut expenses with 7-foot thick walls, of course. One way was to enlist the help of Brother Halfman. Okay, a Jesuit brother as site engineer. Another way was to do much of the construction labor themselves. Okay, 7-foot thick walls though. Okay. The parish then rented a stone quarry in Lockport for 2 years, cutting costs and doing it themselves. They rented the Lockport 2 years and could be easily shipped by barge down the Erie Canal. That's another video I should do. Okay. On August 25th, 1878, this is a very important date here. Look at that picture. It was kind of dark when I was there, boots on the ground, and I'm sorry that I only have my phone pictures, but I'm trying to go through this for you and give you some scenery while I'm reading. Okay. So this is the important date here. This is the nexus point. This is where they're telling you they initiated work. On August 25th, 1878, the cornerstone was laid for the new church. New church. Okay. Not. I presume they're saying that this building is the old church, or this building, but this might be the rectory house. I'm not sure. Okay, look at that picture. And look at what's up there. Is that? I don't know what that is. Circuitry. The Jesuit brother as site engineer. Another way was to do much of the construction labor themselves to save costs. Right, 7-foot thick walls. The parish then rented stone quarry. And on August 25th, 1870, the cornerstone was laid after a splendid ceremony for the cornerstone laying, hard reality followed. Parish struggled to keep the project going. Of course, money. And the West Tower subsequently was redesigned and ended up smaller than the massive East Tower. Work proceeded slowly. I'll keep that in mind. The project coming, the church arose. The West Tower subsequently was redesigned and ended up smaller than the massive East Tower. Work proceeded slowly. The building was completed in 8 years, 1886. So it started in 1878, and they built this thing, this massive behemoth, in 8 years with 7-foot thick walls. And they used concrete, but they did it modestly, and they did it effectively, what they're saying, on the cheap, because they wanted to save costs. But they erected this absolutely huge behemoth here. Number one. Okay, number two is what I just pointed out here, is it was redesigned. Okay, now if we look at this article, the West Tower is shorter than the East Tower due to the inability of the ground to support its weight. It has nothing to do, it says that, does not say that whatsoever in the article of the actual stannbuffalo.org itself. In this article in the wikipedia.org, and this place doesn't even have its own Wikipedia site, which is unbelievable to me, being that it's the history of this place. So the West Tower shorter than the East Tower due to the inability of the ground to support its weight. Oh, because in this article it says it was redesigned, ended up smaller because of money. As the church arose, the West Tower subsequently was redesigned and ended up smaller, massive East Tower. Has nothing. It doesn't say that it was because of the ground at all. Matter of fact, it actually looks like it was because of money in this video, or in this one. So, anomaly number one pointed out. Let's keep going. These were interesting features here. Wanted to get those. That's why they say it was redesigned, as far as I'm concerned, in this article, that because of money, and they're trying to do it on a cheap, effectively. But look at what they built in 7-foot thick walls. It's just a complete. It's completely contradictory to me. Okay, the building was only completed in 8 years. 1886. But when its doors opened, it was fully paid for. The new church was consecrated on May 16th, 1886. A lot of sixes and stuff now. There goes a pointed arch. That will be an arch. There is a difference between arches and vaults, and I will explain that later. Let's finish reading this off. Okay, actually, you can read the rest of this yourself. Let's get into the anomalies with the dates here, because now I'll put this in the description. This article is from the Buffalo as an Architectural Museum website that I go off of for a lot of my websites, or a lot of locations that I use. Now this one gives a date of 1878 as well. Okay, so that checks out. And Bishop Stephen Ryan placed the cornerstone of the building. Cornerstone, 1878. That one's a good one. What's not is this one, okay, from Buffalo Rising, where you can come to that. I will just keep the key word there in your head, Buffalo Rising. Look for it in the description. I'm going to put all of them in there. And this one actually says the church cornerstone was laid in May of 1886. It's actually the complete date of what every other article says. I understand it could be a typo, that's for sure, a possibility, but when you cite the cornerstone also, it means that you're doing some research into it, okay? There's another anomaly there. When was it really made? Again, could be a typo, but I'm pointing out inconsistencies here at the very least. And now what this research also comes into is how the Diocese of Buffalo closed it down due to repair work and constant upkeep, maintenance costs and everything. And with that, I'll just read this right here. The Buffalo Diocese closed the church in 2012 and announced plans for demolition in 2013. It was shortly declared a city landmark, and a Vatican court acting on appeal, a small flock fighting for the church, ruled in 2014 St. Anne's could not be deconsecrated. So there you go. That's community stepping up right there, and you know, for whatever purposes the Vatican and diocese wanted to literally demolish a building like this. I have my reasons, but their community stepped up, and now it's kind of in limbo, effectively. But then there you go with coming in, certain faction coming in, or narrative or intent coming in to try to ruin history, effectively. A building like this. So okay, so let's look at these now. 7-foot thick wall, effectively. This is built in 8 years on modest means. Lockport dolomite from a quarry in Lockport. Look at our guys up here. I didn't see any ladder in this one, UAP, but I have serious doubts as to the legitimacy of this picture as a solid, good construction photo. Now let's look at some of these old school pictures and just check out the grandiosity of it, especially with the steeples. And we'll talk about how they say the steeples were. Now look at the construction here, okay? Keeping in mind the thickness of the walls that they say. Look at that, huh? Now, see this little feature over here? That's why I briefly went by the pew here, because that kind of just stuck out to me. That feature. It kind of looks similar. Does it not? And now what's there now is obviously a park, and there's some interesting. We're around an area that has some roundabouts, and here's the central terminal. I did that before. So you got a line from here with one of those spiral roundabouts, okay? You got a line from central terminal over to this place where I'm at. Okay, interesting how things are laid out on the grid. Now, where was I? 7-foot thick walls. Okay, and then we were looking at the pictures. Not those ones yet. Yeah, look at the escape here. So that's why I wanted to bring in the Pew map, because what was old parks? Michelle Gibson's talked about that before. This is a real cool picture. As you can see, it just dominates the landscape. And that's a good picture right there to show, like, I mean, wow, in 8 years they built something like that. But just look how much it dwarfs everything else. I mean, this is a big building right here. Okay. And again, it was built in the Gothic style. Now, with the anomaly of what I said about the different styles or the different sizes of the steeples, these beautiful steeples, and how they say these things came down. 3 churches had damage done to their towers on March 6th. I mean, seriously, 3-6. I mean, it's all over this stuff, and I'm not trying to paint the Society of Jesus in any negative light here, but at all. I'm not making any charges, any claims, or nothing. It's just there's numerology here, and there's changing or there's inconsistencies in the literature at the very least, and they're involved with a lot of it. That's all I'll say. They seem to be involved with a lot of it. Okay, so the cause was a severe windstorm damaged these things. Okay, let's go a little further on that. Okay. Lose my place. severe windstorm. The three churches were St. Peter and Paul, Williamsville, St. Mary Magdalene at Fillmore and Urban Streets, this church, and St. Anne's, the one that we're at. St. Peter and Paul's were repaired. Magdalene's removed its original Moorish-style towers, Moorish-style, and had them replaced with different style cupolas, and St. Anne's became as it is today, chopped off. According to the late Father Gilbert Schmidt, no serious damage had been done to St. Anne's. Okay, so why are they gone? The winds had pulled the cross on the higher loose from the inside mount, and it was tilted way over. Okay, on both of them. Father Schmidt said that the old caretaker of the church was out of town. Okay. Had he been around, he'd have climbed the tower the next morning, fastened it back in place, and nothing would have been said. As it happened, someone at a Schlager funeral home, which was across the street, saw it called up and raised hell about the cross, the steeple, failing down, which led to engineers being called in. Structural studies, etc. It was decided to take both spires down. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So these two beautiful spires were taken down because of one cross was off its mooring on the inside. That makes absolutely no sense in the entire world. And these are those two pictures, actually. See here and here. Close up. So, number one, wind damaged the cross on one of the spires. Both of them wind up getting taken down because the caretaker was out of town. Okay. I buy that one. You got to be absolutely kidding me. Now you begin to see why we can question this stuff. For one of the most iconic, should be landmark places in Buffalo, the steeples were taken down. The story that they provide is BS for sure. This is a 1908 image of this building. Okay, now not just where the steeples taken off of the church, but the domes were taken off of this bad boy. Look at that. Look at the scale of that. Build up. Just a simple rectory and church and school. Just modest. You know, all these dormers and everything. Just a beautiful building. Here goes an old picture too of that. Now what we're going to do here is go over the maps. Look at that. Look at that steeple. Does that look like it might be a little bit cockeyed? Kind of does, doesn't it? I wonder maybe if it's the picture put together. I like this one too because it's in the background. You see the red brick with the dome on it, and then you see the two steeples of the actual church. You got this dude fixing his button. This little sweetheart here chilling. Very cool pictures. Now, here was the Depew map. Okay. Why I found that significant and why I wanted to bring that up again is because, you know, I wonder if anybody has any information on that. It is a park now, again, like we established. And we know that there's something going on with the parks, and we know there's something going on with the water and these lines and all that. So, you know, again, we're not too far from the water here. This is on a line, got a roundabout here. What's going on there? And then Central Terminal. Look at this. Look at this guy. I'll go there too. The Central Terminal is close by, right there. I've done that before. You got this church right here. Okay. These domes are still on it. And then keep going is where I'm at here. Look at the size of these churches in Buffalo. They're just massive. I mean, they're not the size of the ones in Europe, but they're pretty big. And we're actually going to do that right now. We're going to go over. Okay, illustrated. This is my old school art book. Give you an idea. There go the dates. All right. 37 for you. This is a Gothic style architectural building. We have Gothic art right here. And we're going to go over that. And again, keep in mind what I said. Now, another reason why the steeples being different sizes in one story doesn't really give what the other story gives as far as the ground wouldn't be able to support it. Another anomaly here is, well, maybe it's the way things were, because this steeple doesn't look as big as that, and that's the architectural style that you're saying. So maybe that's just built in the style of. Look at the three. You got the three prominent, doorways here. Okay, let's go back. 3 prominent doorways here. Of course, one smaller steeple, one bigger steeple. Now we are at this thing is called F. I believe I briefly did that in the beginning. Chatris Cathedral, Facade. Okay. A lot of these cathedrals and churches have that crucifix layout. Now this is what we're telling is French Gothic architecture. Vaulted ceilings. French Gothic architecture. Okay, these steeples don't. They might be different sizes here, but look at the build out here. See, that is Chatris Cathedral. Same thing, different angle. So yeah, those steeples would be different sizes. Maybe that's a feature, a characteristic feature of the Gothic. Meanwhile, they're sitting here telling us that it's because of the ground couldn't support it, when I can actually go and look at an old book that's referencing Gothic style. Look at the entrance here. Exactly, well, not exactly the same, but it's got the 3 with the points. Okay. Let's just do a quick here for you. Yeah. Okay. Very, very beautiful. Look at, very similar. So I would venture a guess to say that it's not because of the ground. It's actually because this one might be 2 different sizes as well. We're getting a different angle here, but what do you think? Yeah, I'd say it's not because of the ground. It's because it's being built like these look. Now that is H. Reims Cathedral. 1420. West front. Is that showing different sizes? Look at that. Look at the scale of that. Look how big that is, guys. Beautiful. B. That is Parish Cathedral. Facade. Detail. Wow. Now, do these have their steeples taken off also? That is A. Look at the flying buttresses. Reims Cathedral, okay. Just absolutely impeccable. Look at B. Look at this. That might be Reims also, yep. So yeah, if nothing else, I'm just going back and forth and showing you how these features on French Gothic, all the Gothic styles in Europe are similar to what we see here in Buffalo, New York. And it's got, okay, there we go. This is B. That definitely looks like different size steeples here. specifically for sure. And that's B. So let's go see what B is. B is Amiens Cathedral, Clarence Ward. Look at this. Built for giants, huh? And look at all the nodules. That's similar to, looks similar to the steeple of the St. Louis Cathedral here in Buffalo, the one that I did a couple bushwhacking Tartarias ago. Very similar. Look at the vaulted ceilings, French Gothic still. Look at this place. My. D. So what is D? C and D. Look at this. You know, one might think that we've regressed, huh? C is the Beauvias Cathedral, and D is La Sainte Chapelle. Oh my, look at this place. E. I'd like to have, well, look at the steps there. I mean, my word, are these places still here? La Sainte Chapelle. My word, that is absolutely beautiful. Let's see if there's anything that's... Let's get you a full screen view. Now again, it's not as big as the cathedrals in Europe, but it's certainly big and beautiful in its own right. And look at what we got there. Looks like we have some of the old school organ. We're going to get into that also, or I'm just going to show you what they did with it. Unfortunately, at the time they did it, the date. Oh wow, look at this. Wow. Okay, yeah, right there. That looks like the top of the St. Louis Cathedral, St. Louis Church, with the nodules on it. And similar to the altar here. Very cool. Beautiful. Very beautiful. One of these. G. The ruined cathedral, Butter Tower. Wow. H. Look at this thing. Look at the dormers on that. Look at the nodules on that. I mean, Antiquitech off the absolute chains. Gotta be kidding me. So that's H. That is Palais de Justice, Ruin. 1499 to 50. Does that mean that's when it stood till? And these things are all gone now? How do they have these pictures? I'm not sure what these dates are. Look at D. Wow. Let's go see what D is. Roan Cathedral. Roan Cathedral. Look at the, okay, so 3 prominent things here. Indicative. C and D. Look at this thing. Look at, okay, so you got a little bit of a street light there to show you the size and scale of this. My word. That kind of looks like the Philadelphia City Hall, actually. Now let's look at E first. Wow. Hotel de Ville, Brussels. G is the House of Jacques Coeur. He must have been a Jacques Baller. I mean, you gotta be kidding me. F is the Hotel Cluny. Nice hotel. So D is Albi Cathedral. Look at that. Just impeccable. And then C, Papal Palace. Look at the ornate on that. Now that's A. Saint Wilfrid Abbeville. Anyone want to look up the Philadelphia? Shout out to Matt at Quantum of Conscience. But yeah, that looks like that. Maybe this is a little bit more ornate though, huh? Not sure. That's got 17-foot thick walls. Here we go. Look at that. French Gothic still. D. Chateau Carrier-Sonnet. Look at these structures or these sculptures. I mean, it could be sculptures, could be frozen people, like Martin Leakey talks about, and Han Solo. Gothic arts here. This is cool. F. Were there steeples on these things before, guys? You got the 4 little points here. Were they taking these steeples off even back then? F is the Durham Cathedral. I. Wells Cathedral. H is the Canterbury Cathedral. Oh, look at all these things. Again, the layout here. Look at this. A and B. A is Wells Cathedral, B is Canterbury Cathedral, and G, Salisbury Cathedral. Okay. Peter Gabriel. Little Peter Gabriel there for you climbing up on Salisbury Cathedral. Look at this impressive structure. Okay, 2. Equal size they look like though. Lincoln Cathedral. B. York Minster. Flying buttresses. I always like this one. D. Chappelle Henry. This is a castle looking thing here. This is specifically different than what you think the mud flood or other cathedrals are. This is more like, I guess, you know, castle-ish, rampart type of deal. Specifically different than these things. Let's see what that is actually. E is Compton Waynets. C is Compton Waynets, same thing. So these two right here, this one is the same as this one. There's definitely some really cool stuff going on here though. Look at that wall. And then we got this thing, which is A. Very cool. I gotta think there might have been steeples on these things though. A is the Gloucester Cathedral. And then of course Cologne, absolutely massive. So all these are architectural styles that are similar to what they're saying we have going on here. My bushwhacking adventure at St. Anne. Okay, that's what we're working with here, the Gothic style. The architect who was allegedly who did it, who the architectural style was based off of Neo-Gothic. Forget his name. Francis Himpler, Himpler. The only article that I could find on that gentleman was, I think we're coming to the end here. Towers. So Francis Himpler is the architect that designed this and built a smaller tower here because of the ground not being able. Okay, not buying that, because again we're seeing pictures here that show towers, one's longer or one's taller than the other. So it was built in the style of They tell you. It said it's Gothic in the style of Gothic. If they're showing, I'm showing you pictures that have one steeple that's shorter. I don't know why they're telling us that it was either for money or because the ground wasn't strong enough. It just sounds to me that they're actually showing their hand there as to how much they changed the narrative of things and the story of things. Look at this. Look at this. Gee, that's one of my favorites. Look at that building. Milan Cathedral. Italian. Okay, so yes. 7-foot thick walls. Where was I? Now they were telling you that they built a wall, or they built it because of the ground. And I'm showing you, let's actually look for that one originally. I showed you. Perfect example. Yeah, I believe that they just built it in the style of these things. This is the F, this is the Chatris Cathedral. What's going on with the spires rose over 20 feet? They were designed differently because of the inability of the ground to support its weight. Meanwhile, in this, we show that it was because they were trying to cut costs, or that's how they made it sound. So, some very interesting anomalies, not just in when it was built. We show that even though it could have been a typo, we're still getting a different date. And it just, at the very least, you have to ask questions. So that's an anomaly. An anomaly with the reason why one steeple is shorter than the other. When you compare it to my old book, pictures of the architectural style that it's built in the form of. Okay. Now let's also do some research and looking into more pictures and plaques. I got you the boots on the ground. We did these vintage pictures. I always like that one. They add a little color, it looks like. But now what we're going to do is take some more time and get into the actual articles, not the articles, the literature, but these guys, the Jesus Society, and the maps. So we were at the Pew, and that anomaly with the X marks the spot type of deal. I'm not sure what this was actually for. I know it's a little neighborhood, but now that feature is still there in Depew. I've showed that before, and we just don't know what the parks and the golf courses actually are 100% for. Now let's look at these maps of Buffalo. This map is of Buffalo in 1888. It has Buffalo Fairgrounds. It has steeples all over it that we really can't discern where it is. There's no street names. We have this map of Buffalo from 1902. Now in this map I can find, now remember we're on Broadway for this, our St. Anne. Now let's find Broadway here. My posse's on Broadway. Okay. Let's get our bearings. And try to angle out. Okay, now we got Emslie and Watson. Watson, Emslie. Okay. Boom. See the spires there? I think that we found it. See this building? Those are the two buildings there. Okay, you got me? It's definitely it. At that time we had the spires. Okay, so we have this building in between Watson and Emslie. And we gotcha. Found it on this map. The map of Buffalo 1902. Put it in the description for you. We have it on this map. And we have both buildings as well, the red brick buildings. 1902. Match it up with your history, literature that we already went over. Okay, now let's go try to find it on the map of 1880. A little bit about 20 years before. Okay, now keeping in mind that this was said to have been started, I'm looking at my notes here, on 1878. Okay, 1878. This is a map of 1880, we're told. And it's given on the actual map itself, handwritten. But this is a Library of Congress map, 1880. Contributors are, it says 1852, so you got 1880 as well right here. Now let's try to shoot from the hip and see if I can find it. Now, and by this time, now check these old pictures out. Now this is, let's line this up real quick. This is a map of 1888 Buffalo. And you know what? Let's start here. Give me some. Oh yeah, St. Michael. That's St. Michael downtown. I found this picture. Got the oldest: St. Michael, St. Louis, and St. Anne's. But in this picture, St. Michael is right here, listed on the Buffalo Street Towers of Power. Very interesting. Probably another video. So, 1825 Buffalo. Let's just keep this in mind because we're going to try to go through. This is 1825 Buffalo, and it's, you got, look at, now we look, I think that we see some steeples here. They're trying to hide it maybe. Okay, because I'm thinking that this stuff was here. Now, from 1825 Buffalo to 1850 Buffalo, now you're starting to look like this. And I can't get a good references to where this is, but look at all this build out, Big old grain mills here, mills. Now from 1850 Buffalo to 1888, to 38 years afterwards, you're completely pretty much built out. You have a star fort the shape of a star fort that was completely covered up. Now you see how they hide these the shapes here, the way that they depict it. Now in 1888 they have the fairgrounds here also. Now let's do some correlation here with the dates. We're in 1888 now, and it's completely built out, and it looks like they completely already covered up the star fort, even though they're not showing a star fort depicted in the 1825 one. Now follow me here, because I'm going to show you how that kind of sticks out to me with these maps, because you have such a apparent looking star shape right here, and I think that they put industry over it to dismantle, and like John Levy says, and the other gentleman that looks at over these star forts say that they quarry them. You have a very clear depiction of what looks to be star fort type shape here, but when you zoom in, there's big huge buildings over it. In 1880 I think that they were dismantling it. So from 1825 they don't show they built up what would have been a star fort on this side. It's from a different angle, and then we're already dismantling it. I think this is completely censored, and some of it's probably real, these older ones, but it doesn't match to me. If they could build out within 70 years. Keeping in mind that the city looks to have been shaped like an old star fort. Okay, and the way that they depict the angles of these cities in these maps, you lose that type of deal a little bit. You see, there goes it right there too. You know, you can't necessarily, obviously you can see the points, but if you're not looking for it, you might not see it. So anyway, we have it located, and I found it on the 1880 map. Or no, not the 1880 map. I'm sorry. Excuse me. So, we have it located on the 1902 map. And we're on Broadway. And we found the two spires, remember? Now, what I want to show you that's anomalous is because on the actual 1880 map, again, now remember in the article that Broadway was called Batavia Way. And let's do a little bit of triangulation here. Again, we are at Watson at Emslie. And we also have Adams Street right here. Okay, so let us try and go find that in an 1880 map. And here's Broadway. Now I found this by coming over here and finding Adams Street. You guys can follow me. It's over here somewhere. Keep in mind this length right here. There's Adams. Okay, I found it. Okay, so there's Adams for reference. Now let's go back to our... Here's Adams. The next street over would be Watson, and Watson is where the church is. Okay, let's get ourselves going here. Watson and Broadway. Adams is right here. Now again, in this 1880 map, you'd think this was the starting date was 1878. Okay, here's Adams. Let's take Adams. The next street over would be Watson. You can kind of see it. And here would be Broadway. So this street would be Adams. The next street over would probably be Watson. See, it's kind of, you can't really see it. And it's actually, the church is not there. It should be right here amongst all these buildings right here. I don't know. 25 is, I couldn't actually find the history of that one. 25 shows St. Stephen's Church. And St. Anne's is not on here. I noticed that. St. Anne's is not listed on here, even though it was shovel and ground started 1878. And this is an 1880 map. It's not listed on here. And there's all bunch of build out where it's supposed to be. So this is, again, if you guys follow me, this is Broadway, B-Way, okay? Broadway. We follow the line out to where we show Adams. Now it's not on Adams. This is Broadway. I get confused as to what this is. This would be Watson here. Guys, the church should be right here. Right here. That's another anomaly. So I presume that church that they're showing in here is, I think this church is this church, because that's what, that's how it, it's on Adams. But this is a whole different, it's not that name, it's not St. 25. Let's look at it again. Again, another anomaly. The church is not there, and there's actually buildings there when they're saying that ground was broken in 1878. This map is 1880, 2 years afterwards. It's just not adding up to me. So that was 25. 25 is, again, St. Stephen's German Evangelistic Church. I assure you that's not what it's called now. And again, to me it's a little confusing, the fact that a map that is at this date shows a whole bunch of buildings in the spot where the actual St. Anne's Church is. It's supposed to be one of the oldest churches in Buffalo. Things just, for me, they really don't add up. Now, where is that 25? There it is. So here's Broadway. Here's Adams, and then the next one should be, yeah, it should be right here somewhere, and it's not showing it. Is this hiding it? Yeah. It's confusing to me. So they're hiding the fact that it probably was here, I guess is what I'm saying. Or at the very least, I'm just pointing out an anomaly. It doesn't make sense to me, the fact that this is all built out and then they just knocked it all down and built a church there, and they don't say that in the actual literature. So let's actually go over some more, or see if we got any more pictures to go through, and we'll tail this one off. See what I'm working with for time here. Pretty good one for you. I hope you liked it. I hope that I pointed out some anomalies for you. I hope I made some cohesive sense in the fact that I'm confused as to when I go through this stuff. I hope that I can convey that to you, and you can understand and see that it's confusing to me, and I'm not just like all over the place, because the way it looks is there should be a church here. This whole complex should be shown here at least, or emptied at least. I understand they could knock it down in 2 years, because there is a time difference between 1878. Well, actually, no, that's actually wrong. They said they started construction of this whole complex in 1878. And yeah, that is a definite anomaly, because in this map, it's 2 years later, per what they say, unless they're going by this date, and that could be a grabble right there. I'm not sure what the contributors' names mean and why they have this date here, but I'm saying that this is an 1880 map, and where they're saying that the St. Anne's Church is, there's no hide nor hair of it in this actual map. And you can zoom in, and they show you the date right on it. Show you the date right on it. This is Library of Congress. So 1878 is when that building was initiated. It stands to reason it should be on an 1880 map, even if it did take 8 years to build. So that's a St. Anne's Church anomaly for you, and it involves Jesuits. So I'm not painting them in any kind of a negative light, just saying that when the history is usurped, they seem to have their fingerprints on it. So at the very least, the Berserker Bear will be here to point that out here in Buffalo, because look at this place. Look at all these look at all the towers that I have to go through still. Look, it's just amazing. This picture, this is undated, but the Peace Bridge is there, so it's after 1900s. Look at all the build out here. Mr. Brees, you were definitely right. I think this was a for sure Tartarian hub. Old Tartarian mega city hub. There goes the Richardson complex. So, yeah, that was the anomaly from St. Anne's Church. Another bushwhacking Tartaria for you. Boots on the ground. Kind of a little bit of extensive research. I hope that you liked it. I hope it wasn't too boring for you. I hope that I pointed out some stuff that you found interesting. At another location here in Buffalo, I got hundreds, if not thousands, more to go to. I have stuff to do on the railroad tracks. It's winter here now. There's snow on the ground outside. I would like to get you some landscapes with some snow on it. So, again, email me if you want some locations. Join us on MeWe. Campbell set that up. I operate it. Calum also is a moderator. Muddy May is a moderator. You can hit up my boy Mr. Brees on there, who's a good researcher, a fellow contributor as well, and supplied me with those maps from the government Library of Congress government sites. Thank you very much for that. And thank you for all my contributors and commenters. Again, sorry about the wait for this one, but it was a little bit longer than I thought. And I'll get you another one out soon. Maybe we'll do a research one. Maybe I'll do an old school book one whenever you want. But again, the aim always is to get out in the field, on the scene, boots on the ground for you. And I really hope you like it. So I'm going to tail this one off. Thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. Dustin, Berserker Bear, Bushwhacking Tartaria, St. Anne's Church, tailing out. Okay, I hope you liked it again. Have a great day. I will see you before the holidays. Merry Christmas still in the meantime. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Take care of your families and keep your heads up. And I will see you again, as always. Berserker Bear will report back. Take care.